Welcome to yet another episode of Not Yet Mature, the podcast series talking about life and business, the mix between the two, and hopefully allowing the entrepreneur and founder to find some insights of what the path looks like, or rather, should look like ahead. XCAP has a vision that the ethical business that is formed around servitude and relational transactions should be given the advantage to exit the finite space and enter the infinite games. This, collectively, is our mission and our goal. Without further delay, let's dive into today's chat. Here with me, your host, founder of Exemplo Capital, Dion Richter. Like and subscribe. You know, the usual.
Okay, so let's actually talk about habits. And I want to start by recapping James Clear. Actually, no. I'm going to insert a snippet. I want to treat you guys to something that we've been working with. You might find it a bit annoying. And I actually don't care. So here is a snippet from our book review that's done by our XCAP AI host. You might recognize my voice slightly. And by the way, listen to this episode and then later on come back when we launch the episode called AI Maturity. Okay, so on a quick sideline, this episode is not generated by AI, but the snippet we're going to put in is generated by AI. Feel that I want to tell you that, so there's certain things that might annoy you, but this is a cool program, right? So I'm going to say a lot. You actually want to learn why. So I'm not going to waste your time. Keep on listening here and then go and join in on that other episode when we post it later. So just follow. When you see something called AI Maturity, start listening. We'll see in this month, we'll definitely start launching that. Okay, so it's going to sound like the episode is starting from scratch. It's not. It's kind of like an episode in an episode. We see it as a reward for being a loyal listener. You might find it annoying, and that's okay. You can bad review us later. But for now, Karen and Llewellyn, relax, enjoy, right? We're gonna do this. Let's see if we can insert it here on the pad. Here we go.
In this episode of Not Yet Mature, Francis takes the lead as he reviews Atomic Habits by James Clear. He breaks down the book's core concepts, shares personal applications, and debates the pros and cons with Lombard. Is habit formation really the key to success, or is there more to the story? Tune in for a deep dive into the power of small changes, the science of behavior, and whether this book truly delivers on its promise of transformation.
Welcome back to Not Yet Mature. I'm Francis Delaglio, your dreamer, doer, and occasional philosopher.
And I'm Lombard Atkins, the guy who keeps Francis from joining a self-help cult.
Listen, if I ever start selling life-changing webinars, stop me. But today, we're doing something new, our first book review episode. I just finished reading Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I've got thoughts, a lot of thoughts.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Let's start with this. What's the big idea? Why should anyone care about this book?
All right, so Atomic Habits is built on one core principle. Small habits, repeated consistently, compound into massive results over time. Instead of focusing on goals, Clear suggests we focus on systems. He says we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. That one hit me hard. Think about it. How many people say they want to be fit, but never build the habit of working out consistently?
So he's basically saying, fix the process, not the end result?
Exactly. He breaks it down into 4 laws of habit formation. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. It's all about designing habits that stick rather than relying on motivation alone. Here's where it got personal for me. You know how I trained for triathlons? I used to rely on motivation. Big mistake. I'd go hard for 3 weeks, then fall off. But after reading this book, I changed my approach, set out my gear the night before, made my workouts shorter but daily, and linked training to my morning coffee routine.
Let me guess, it worked?
Like magic. But here's my gripe. The book assumes habit building is as easy as following a formula. It doesn't really address the deeper psychological struggles people face.
Right? Because forming habits isn't just a science, it's an emotional game too. People know what they should do, but actually doing it is another story.
Exactly. And while the book is brilliant, it oversimplifies things at times, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. The principles work if you apply them properly. So let's do a quick rundown. Pros first. Simple, actionable strategies. Great insights on behavior and identity.
Easy to implement for anyone looking to improve daily habits. All right, cons?
Oversimplifies complex behavioral issues. Assumes people have control over their environment. Some ideas feel recycled from other self improvement books.
So overall, worth reading?
100%. But only if you're willing to actually apply the lessons. Otherwise, it's just another motivational book on your shelf.
Final takeaways and wrap up. So what's your biggest takeaway from the book?
That small, consistent actions define our success way more than big, ambitious goals. Identity based habits, seeing yourself as a person who does the thing, are more powerful than just wanting results.
All right, you sold me. I'll check it out. Eventually.
Sure, you will. But for everyone listening, if you're struggling with consistency in anything, this book might just change the game for you. Try one small habit change today and see where it leads.
And if you build a habit of listening to Not Yet Mature, even better.
That's a habit we fully endorse.
Okay, so welcome back to the real show. Yeah, I'm not going to explain about that episode and the characters and the vibe. All I'm going to say is stay tuned. You're really going to love this. Okay, so back to habits. We have access to it all, but we are actionless by nature. I think most of the successful people actually is not really about talent, sorry, but rather about just acting. And I'm not talking about acting as a movie actor, but as in taking action. I've decided to really see where I can help. So, what are the habits I need to start with? What are the things that I definitely say these are the things that you need to start, I don't know, kind of looking into? I know you're probably stuck wondering when the bomb about our AI content will drop soon. Be patient. I promise it's coming. We are working with something great, not only a voice cloner, but well, wait and see. Okay, so get that off your mind. So what's habits? And what habits should we be incorporating? First, if you know me, here's a pre-list. Get in the habit of at least listening to this and deciding where to take action and where not to. Right? That is a good habit to start going into. So let's look at the list. I'm going to give you my 8 favorites, and why not 10? Because this is my show and not yours. And that's why. So the first habit that I think you need to start doing is solutional thinking. Simon Squibb, I love his content. He always asks people, what do you want to do for a living, and he makes it happen. And when he asks about the problem in younger generations, he says people should stop asking kids what do they want to be one day when they grow up. You should start asking them rather what problem would they want to fix, or what solution would they want to bring to a known problem. Because that puts us in the space to do solutional thinking. And I do it a lot. And I must say, it's kind of annoying depending on which color gradient you are. And color gradient, I'm talking about Surrounded by Idiots. Brilliant book. It's a psychological placement, I guess. It's the best way to say it. But when you are someone like me, you tend to, when you think solutions, you first seek problems. And when I do it, I walk into a place, a restaurant, any business, I walk into there and my mind immediately seeks everything wrong. But instead of complaining, I offer solutions and say, why not try this instead? And it's not, everyone's not always open to it. And I understand why. But at the end of the day, that's how I teach my brain the habit of solutional thinking. And business thinking, I guess. It's not always about the product or actually the market cap. Well, it won't always be like that, but what solution will you bring? A solution to corporate or government. And when I watched a brilliant keynote by one of the venture capitalists. I watch so many keynotes from venture capitalists. Um, so I'll insert the link later on saying who that was. But in any case, what he spoke about, I think it was from Anderson Horowitz, or no, it was from one of the African venture capitalists. But in any case, so when he speaks about is he speaks about the fact that your company is people have this misconception that your company is always investable, and it's not always investable. It should always be sellable in the sense of it should always be in the position that if it's not investable, it should be something that you can sell. So, product, movement, revenue, all those type of things in the books have interest in the market. But when you have a scalable company, an investable company, there's two things that they look at. And the first one is, are you bringing a solution to a known problem within a corporate or in a government issue? And that's it. If yes, then you are a scalable, investable company. Then capital can help you grow. But if you're just bringing a product, a supply to a demand, an interest, or something that's trending, that's great. It doesn't mean you are not a good company or a great company. It just means that you're not, in their eyes, a scalable, investable model. It means that you are, in their eyes, you are a sellable company, if that makes sense. So solutional thinking is a habit that you can learn yourself or teach yourself, and that will carry weight. The next one is the habit of writing and reading. So I've explained in the previous podcast that you need to start learning how to get into your mind into actionables, and the best way to do that is actually to write. Every major impact player out there does that. Whether you blog, whether you write a diary, whether you write in a calendar, you need to get into the habit of taking what's in your mind and articulating it in paper. And from there on, you can easily take actionables. And that's what it means to be able to do that. And the same goes with reading. Get a book, start reading. I'm not talking about digital reading. I'm talking about an actual book and start reading. Ironically, listen to this. Every single billionaire out there, when they give their top 10 reading lists, they give books. When they give their impact and what changed their life and their secret sauce, they bring out books. They make reference to books. They quote books. This has always been the biggest knowledge is power, is just consuming that. But we are lazy. Our brains work different with digital content than actual visualizing the content. So get into the habit of reading. When you read your Bible, take an actual Bible. When you're reading a business book, take the actual business book. Stay away from that screen time. Incorporate that differently. And if you say, Dion, why do you say this? I'm not going to keep on motivating you. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a whatever. I'm not a billionaire. But trust the psychologists when they say it. Trust the billionaires. I'm 100% certain that this is not the first time you are hearing this. So that's why I said with my pre-list, learn how to actually just listen to the advice that you've been given. The third habit is a habit of self-improvement or upskilling. When I work as a life or business coach, especially in productivity, one of the first tasks I give people is the task of actually mapping out who they are. Currently are the ultimate version of themselves, the weakest version of themselves, and who they currently are. And they need to upskill what they need as resources or whatever to get from where they are now to the ultimate version. And they need to also list what are the things that will cause them to go back to the weakest version of themselves. So it's an introspective thing. But what always, and there's it's a bit more complex exercise than that. It's a whole journey exercise. I would love just connect with me. I'll teach you how to do it. It's absolutely amazing. It helps you to put yourself in your own perspective the whole time and keep yourself accountable. But what it always does, it shows you elements that you need to either upskill or let go. Yeah. So learn how the habit of upskilling, learn how to recognize it, and learn the things that you need to start implementing to actually do it. Then the habit of asking questions and showing curiosity. We've said it so many times before. Simon Sinek I believe his whole career is built on the mere fact of asking why. Being this curious is not to doubt things. It's actually the opposite. It's to show curiosity. We need to have that habit of showing curiosity in how things work. Why other people argue differently? Why they do things a certain way? Why we do things a certain way? Just gives us curiosity, shows us perspective. We need to get in the habit of chasing an execution plan of an idea. You've got all these ideas. Get into the habit on how are you going to chase this into an actionable thing, even if it's a minute thing, even if it's just, I'm going to bring out a new paper plate. Get it actionable and start seeing it through, and then decide for yourself whether you're going to keep on seeing it through or chase it away. Just stop saying at every single braai that, I thought about this great idea, and Uber was actually my idea first, and this. Take the actionables. Write these things down. Start off getting the habit of, if you have a brilliant idea, pen it down. You can, all of these habits can interlink with one another, right? You can take this habit or the habit of reading and writing, start doing it, and see of the actionable. That's going to get there. Getting the habit of being task-oriented and doing it. Okay, that comes with it. So get in the habit regardless of what color, personality, or what type of person or what psychological state you are in. Get in the habit of taking certain elements of your to-do day and putting it in a calendar and making it actionable that you can task and check off. Okay, it releases a dopamine. It takes away that business in the brain to actually just schedule things. You don't need to super micromanage schedule like everyone else there on color code and all that type of things. But you need to start doing that. The last two ones, the seventh habit is the habit of being wrong. Getting the habit of being wrong. Actually taking in other people's advice. People give you the cheat codes to life. Why? Because believe it or not, most people actually do think of the solution. Right? You're not the first one. Ironically, they just don't know how to take action. They, like you, or most of us, procrastinate. I hate to break it to you. You are actually not that smart. And the solution you have in your brain is most probably not the first person that thought of that solution. But it's the action on the solution. It's the habits that forms around that solution that makes it a success versus where other people just procrastinate. Then, the habit of saying I get to over saying I have to. Guys, it makes the hugest of biggest impact in your brain, in your communication, in leading other people. When people ask you, like, why do you do certain things? Why do you do that? From a father's point of view, from a husband's point of view, from a worker, business owner, but any place where you find yourself, if you verbally say, I get to take my kids to practice. I get to buy my wife presents on Valentine's Day. I get to mentor my team. I get to serve my clients. I get to versus I have to makes the biggest mistake. And you would soon realize that you'll put yourself in a place of gratitude and being thankful for the ability of the space where you're at and being able to do what you do. So now comes the questions, why all of these values? Why these certain ones? From all the habits out there, why these ones? And I'm not the habit expert, but from all the years of productivity coaching, I've found that the basics needs to be a starting point, and untangling is the best method to get rid of bad habits. And I feel I actually need to add something here. Bad habits are not a hiding place. And let me explain. So many times you see someone and they would say, oh, this is just a bad habit. And I'm not going to point out anyone here, and I'm not going to, just jump the gun with anything here. But there is two things that comes to mind that is, I feel in this scenario, a great explanation. And I'm not going to justify any actions, and I'm not going to over-explain or over-complicate or over-apologize for anything. This is my example that I feel that I want to use here. Alcohol and smoking, for example. There's a huge difference than being a bad habit. We can all agree. Every smoker knows, this is a bad habit. Every drinker knows this is a bad habit. Everyone knows that, right? So it's not one of those things you shouldn't, you should, you should. But that's we all know it's a bad habit. But, and here's the difference. There's a difference between a bad habit and an addiction, and we all hide beneath the fact of calling it a bad habit. And I want to say, be careful of that. If something is an addiction, don't call it a bad habit. Call it what it is. It is an addiction. And in the same example, for example, in my BC days, I used to drink a lot. And in that moment, when you are out, you would smoke with it. And that was a bad habit because I wasn't a smoker, but it was a bad habit. When I consume, I smoke, and vice versa. But, and here's a big but, that bad habit later became an addiction. Separate point. It's completely separate because I needed to do this the whole time. I need it. And that's no longer a bad habit. That's an addiction. We were at the Versus Fun Run. On the Fun Run, listen to this. Not even joking. If you were there in Stellenbosch, tag us. You would have definitely seen this guy. This guy is running and vaping as he runs. Now, I want to tell you, if you're listening to this, that that's not a bad habit. That is an addiction. If you feel that you need to smoke while running, you are past the point of calling it a bad habit. It is now an addiction. And an addiction is a bond or chains that needs broken. A bad habit is something that you can entangle. So I'm saying this from a place of care and grace to just put light on. If it's a bad habit, it's a bad habit. It's your choice. But if you want to drop a bad habit, everyone would suggest, even James Clear in his book, to untangle a bad habit. But if it's an addiction, don't treat it as a bad habit. That's the point I want to make. Addiction is a trend that needs to be broken. It's prayer, it's spiritual, it's Jesus. Bad habits, yes, can be the same, but by means of untangling the habit, you should be able to recognize the difference. Bring it to the light, bring it to Jesus. Don't hide behind a lie. So habits, I know, I need to say good habits at this point. The best way is to start with something applicable, approachable, and obtainable. Something that you can do without resources, yes, something that will actually enable you to take on more valid and more healthy habits as you grow and go. And that's why I believe in these ones as a start. So we're talking about, how or why certain values and how to start with them. Okay. So how do I do it? How do I start these habits that I've talked about? And that's the ChatGPT question of the day. The reason why notepads and agenda books, I guess diaries and calendars just keeps trending. How to actually do these type of things. And this is my advice. And the first advice that I want to give you today, if you were paying for advice, this is the advice that I will give you. So now you get it for free. The first one is Ray Dalio's principle. Okay, Ray Dalio's got very different principles, but the one thing that I simply love that always sticks with me is he says principles are there to learn from and then not to copy and paste. So you learn from others, you learn from the habits, you see the habits, but don't try and copy and paste if it doesn't fit into your life. It shouldn't be a stranger in your life. It should naturally, read James Clear's book, it should naturally be part of what you are busy doing. Make it part of your current routines. Stop trying to copy and paste other people's. And that's what I mean on Ray Dalio's principle. Learn from the principle and apply it where in your daily routine instead of trying to copy and paste. So otherwise it's going to feel like work, it's going to feel like a burnout, and it's not going to work. The other advice I give people is follow SMART metrics. Like, can you be specific about the habit? Can you measure it? Can it be achieved? Is it relatable? Is it, what's the time frame? How can I incorporate it? The more you put a character to this habit and a character to yourself with this habit, the more visual, I guess, accountable you keep yourself to it. The third one is prioritizing, learning how to prioritize certain habits over other habits. The fourth point is taking 3 actionables and make them part of an existing journey. Take 3 of the actionables and see, can I incorporate this with my morning coffee routine? I do morning coffee routine. I want to start the habit of reading Bible. right? I can incorporate those two, 100%. I want to incorporate social media with my review, research on what other influencers in the industry are doing. Okay, I can incorporate those two with one another. And then I say with that, the 3 actionables that you bring, number 5 is measure and note impacts from these. As you see changes, recognizable changes, and especially if other people see this in you and mention it, start writing it down as your compliment list, because you would need some form of written encouragement when you get there later again. And then when these habits are natural, this is something that I say, when these 3 are natural, then only start adding more. You can try any, this is my advice. So you do the 3, and as they become natural for who you are, then you can start adding more habits. And then, here's the important part, for every add, drop 2. For every new habit added, start untangling 2 bad habits. Untangling is part of a healthy habit implementation. And what is the end goal here? I guess each to their own, right? From an entrepreneur point of view, I believe it's this. You will get insight and opportunities and invited into networks every day, more and more. The end result will either be you or focused where you need to be, energized where you need to be, owning up where you can handle things versus overplating yourself, dropping the ball, and burning out. The end goal is to equip yourself in recognizing habits that can assist you in becoming the ultimate you, and to actually understand how to make them part of you and whether or not you should. And remember, good doesn't take priority. The habit forms part of you. And that's the idea. What are your priorities? And have you asked yourself lately, why? Until next time.
Welcome to yet another episode of Not Yet Mature. This is Not Yet Mature, and you are listening to Dion Richter. Thanks for being here. Please subscribe to our channels